Even though President Trump has yet to speak to prosecutors himself, personally, Rudy Giuliani is threatening consequences for special counsel Mueller if the investigation, get this, isn't wrapped up by the end of August. Giuliani told Bloomberg News, if he doesn't get it done in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we will just unload on him like a ton of bricks. This is Rudy Giuliani talking. It's the latest BS from a TV lawyer who's prone to outrageous statements, flip-flops, and total exaggerations. In fact, when Giuliani was hired last April, he promised he'd bring the investigation to a speedy conclusion, saying, I don't think it's going to take more than a week or two, this is back in April, to get a resolution. Well, from the outset, Giuliani has shown no regard for consistency in his public statements about key incidents and key witnesses. For instance, Rudy contradicted himself on Michael Cohen, first calling him an honest lawyer, then saying he's lied all his life. Let's watch.
I expected something like this from Cohen. He's been lying all week. I mean, he's been lying for years because he's lied all his life.
Similarly, Giuliani confirmed last night that Trump told James Comey to give Flynn a break. Remember that? But now Giuliani says that conversation never happened.
How is he a good witness for the president if he's saying that the president was asking him, directing him, in his words, to let the Michael Flynn investigation go?
He didn't direct him to do that. What he said to him was, can you give him a break?
Comey says
The reality is, as a prosecutor, I was told that many times. Can you give the man a break?
What happened in that conversation with Comey about Michael Flynn? What exactly did President Trump say?
There was no conversation about Michael Flynn.
Did you hear that? He goes from saying, well, he did say give him a break, and then he says, that never happened. There was no such conversation. He's able to do this on national television. Anyway, Giuliani has also dangled the prospect of presidential pardons out there, only to later walk back those assurances. As he said of Paul Manafort in June, when the whole thing is over, things might get cleaned up with some presidential pardons. Last but not least, we've seen Giuliani go from denying collusion to arguing, by the way, collusion isn't even a crime. Well, Giuliani's daily babble has made clear that his job is to obfuscate, not to clarify. And in doing that job, he's revealed himself to be nothing more than a TV lawyer in a reality show of Trump's own invention. Well, joining me right now is Joyce Vance, former U.S. attorney, and Betsy Woodruff, politics reporter for the Daily Beast. Joyce, I don't know what he is. Is Rudy Giuliani an actual trial lawyer? Is he a guy who goes into a courtroom and convinces a jury and follows the rules and procedures? Or is he as clownish in his role as his performance has been clownish? What is his role?
I can't imagine we'll ever see him in court representing the President of the United States. The sorts of arguments that he's making are really more of a PR strategy than a legal argument. In fact, lawyers owe a duty of candor to the court. That means that when lawyers are in the courtroom, they're obligated to be truthful. If Rudy was saying this sort of stuff in a courtroom, contradicting himself on the facts, he would have problems with the state bar at that point.
Well, let's go through a couple of points. I'll do it with Betsy here. He says this is going to be over in a week or two. Well, that was in April. He says they did talk about giving Flynn a break. The president did bring that up in that private meeting with the FBI director. And then he says a month later, I sound like a street corner. And then he says it never happened. But the tape exists, and he knows we can show those tapes.
It's really perplexing. Giuliani is
Tim Russell would pull these things out and say, 5 years ago, you said. This guy said it a month ago.
Giuliani is acting like the human equivalent of one big shiny object, trying to distract people from whatever the latest Trump controversy is. I think you have trouble saying how he's put any sort of points on the board. All he does is throw out assertions that contradict previous assertions, do the cable news equivalent of tossing ninja dust, and then kind of disappear.
You seem like one of those idiots, Joyce, in the NBA games behind the foul behind the basket, waving those stupid things. Is that all he is? Joyce?
He really is. I think that he is a distraction for people from whatever the drama of the day is with Trump. And by drama, I don't mean Omarosa. I mean the evidence that's beginning to amass against the president and the people around him. And Giuliani is throwing up distractions, saying it's a witch hunt, saying you can't trust Bob Mueller, when in fact he knows full well that that's not true. But that's his role in this whole little shindig.
Joyce, did you get a sense as an expert, and did you get a sense that he was coached by his client? He says one day, yeah, they did talk about giving Flynn a break, not putting him away for a couple of years, but giving him a break, in other words, dropping the case. And then he says next time, well, I never talked about that. Do you think that was the client saying, hey, buddy, you're getting me in hot water here. You're getting me too close to the truth here?
It's hard to know for sure. It could be the president coaching the lawyer, which, we can talk about the dysfunction of having the client telling the lawyer what legal strategy to engage. That's one entire kettle of fish. But alternatively, it could be that as Giuliani sees the public failure of some of the strategies he's trying, he's moving on to the next one, in essence, hoping that something he throws up against the wall will stick on Trump's behalf.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.